If Laura had known her own sister would use her children as a weapon, she would have stopped answering Melissa's calls months ago. But betrayal doesn't usually walk through the front door. It slips in quietly, disguised as concern. And before the story begins, Laura's voice cuts through the chaos like a warning. If you've ever dealt with fake family loyalty or someone trying to tear your life apart just because you're gonna feel this one. And hey, before we jump in, hit that subscribe button. Not just because it helps the channel, but because stories like this remind us we're not alone. Okay, let's get into it. Laura was cleaning up after dinner when she heard the knock. 3 sharp hits on the door, no pause. Her kids, Mia and Jacob, were still at the table finishing their mac and cheese. She wiped her hands on a towel and opened the door, expecting a neighbor. Instead, 2 CPS workers stood on the porch. Her stomach dropped so hard she thought it might hit the floor. One of them, a woman with tired eyes and a clipboard, said, "Hi, are you Laura Green?" "Yeah," Laura said slowly. "Is something wrong?" "We received a report," the other worker said, "and we need to speak with you inside." Laura froze. She could feel her pulse thudding in her neck. "A report about what?" "We'll explain," the woman said. "But we'll need to speak with the children as well." Maya's little voice floated from the kitchen. "Mom, who is it?" Laura swallowed. "Ooh, some people from the state." "Just hang on, honey." Nothing in her life had prepared her for this moment. Not divorce. Not being a single mom. Not working 2 jobs. Nothing. She stepped aside and let them in. The CPS workers scanned the small, clean living room. Toys in a basket by the couch. A candle burning on the coffee table. Laundry folded but not put away. Normal life. But when CPS walks in, normal suddenly feels incriminating. The woman checked her notes. "We received an anonymous call stating that you're mentally unstable, regularly leave the children unattended, and that the home is unsafe." Laura's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Anonymous. Mentally unstable. Unattended. It felt like someone punched her in the chest. "Wait. What? That's not true. None of that is true. I work from home. I'm literally with them all day." The male worker stepped closer. "These claims are serious. We do have to follow procedure." Her hands shook as she ran them through her hair. Okay, talk to me. What exactly did the caller say?" The woman hesitated before reading. "You have episodes where you scream at the kids for hours. That the house is filthy and unsafe. That the kids have been seen outside unattended at night." Laura stared at her stunned. That's insane. I don't even scream. And my kids are never outside at night. Ever." She felt her voice crack, and she swallowed it down. Who would even say something like that? The workers exchanged a look. One Laura wasn't meant to see. People always say, anonymous, but CPS workers usually have a good guess based on the tone of the report. But Laura already knew. Her sister, Melissa, the same woman who constantly told Laura she wasn't doing enough. Even though she herself had no kids, the same woman who acted like everyone else's life choices were personal insults to her. In the last few weeks, the comments had gotten sharper. "You're overwhelmed. It's obvious. The kids need more structure. You're not stable, Laura. You get emotional over everything." Laura brushed it off at the time, thinking Melissa was just being her usual judgmental self, but now she could practically hear her sister's voice in that report. The CPS workers inspected the kitchen. Clean, no hazards. They checked the kids' rooms. Clothes folded. Stuffed animals everywhere. They checked the bathroom. No issues. The male worker crouched beside Mia and Jacob. "Hey guys, do you feel safe at home?" Mia nodded immediately. "Yeah, Mom's nice. We always do stuff together." Jacob shrugged like he wasn't sure why this man was asking such a weird question. "We're fine." CPS didn't find anything alarming. Nothing even slightly concerning. But CPS isn't about what's obvious. It's about what's possible. And that uncertainty hangs in the air like smoke. The female worker turned back to Laura. "We'll need to schedule a formal interview with you. And a home visit from a supervisor." Laura nodded, numb. "We'll be in touch within 48 hours, the male worker added. "For now, just keep things stable. Keep things stable." As if she wasn't already doing everything she could. After they left, the silence in the house felt unnatural. Heavy, like the air itself was judging her. Mia walked over and tugged Laura's sleeve. Mom, did we do something bad? Laura knelt down and hugged her tight.
No, baby.
You didn't do anything wrong. Someone just told a lie about us. Who? Mia whispered. Laura didn't answer. She didn't want to say it out loud. Half an hour later, her phone buzzed. Melissa, the name flashed on her screen like a warning. Laura stared at it, her chest tight. She let it ring twice, then picked up. Hey, Melissa said. Her voice was soft, too soft. Everything okay? I was just thinking about you guys. Laura didn't respond at first. She could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. Did you call CPS on me? Melissa let out a tiny gasp, the fake kind, too dramatic to be real. Laura, what? Why would you even say something like that? Laura closed her eyes. Because someone made a report describing things only someone close to me would know. Wow, Melissa said. So now I'm the villain. I'm the only one who actually cares about those kids. Laura opened her eyes. If you cared, you would have called me. Not the state. There was a pause. A long, tense silence. Then Melissa said, well, if someone did call, maybe they were worried. There's been stuff.
What stuff?
Laura whispered. You're emotional. You cry all the time. You're alone with them too much. You don't have support. That's not healthy for kids. Laura felt her throat tighten. That's being a single mom, Melissa. That's not neglect. Another pause. Then Melissa dropped her voice to a cold whisper. Maybe this will push you to make better choices. And she hung up. Laura sank onto the couch, her whole body shaking, not out of fear, but out of rage. Real slow, quiet rage. She protected Melissa her entire life, covered for her, supported her, loaned her money, babysat her dog for weeks, and now Melissa wanted to take her kids. But Melissa didn't know something crucial. The case was scheduled for emergency review. And the judge assigned to the docket a name Laura recognized the second she saw it. A boy she once helped when he was 16, back when she volunteered at a small foster shelter she helped fund. He wasn't a boy now. He was a judge. And tomorrow morning, he'd be looking at her case. Laura didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling while the house stayed painfully quiet. She kept replaying Melissa's voice in her head. Calm, controlled, pretending to be concerned. Her sister wasn't worried about the kids. She wanted control. She wanted to feel superior, and she'd finally found a way to strike where it hurt most. Around 6 a.m., Laura forced herself up, showered, and made breakfast for the kids. She tried to act normal, but her hands shook every time she picked up a dish. Mia studied her face. Mom, are we going somewhere today? Yeah, Laura said, managing a smile. Just an appointment. You'll stay with Mrs. Patterson for a bit, okay? Their elderly neighbor had offered the night before. She was one of the few people who knew Laura wasn't the monster Melissa described. By 8:30, she had her kids settled next door and was driving toward the courthouse. The steering wheel felt slippery in her palms. At a red light, she whispered to herself, "It's fine. He'll see the truth." But another thought followed quickly, a darker one. What if he didn't remember her at all? The courthouse lobby buzzed with the usual morning chaos. Attorneys in suits, parents holding folders, people arguing quietly in corners. Laura stood in line for the security check, feeling out of place in her simple sweater and jeans. She checked in with the clerk and took a seat outside the small family courtroom. Her legs bounced uncontrollably. When the bailiff finally opened the door and called her name, she inhaled sharply and walked inside. The judge was already seated. He was older now, early 30s maybe, but Laura recognized him instantly. Same sharp jawline, same thoughtful eyes. Back then he'd gone by Ellie, a quiet teenager who barely spoke unless spoken to. She had spent hours helping him fill out job applications, helping him file paperwork for his GED. She had even covered his bus fare once when he was too embarrassed to say he didn't have the money. He looked up from the file in front of him. His eyes paused, focused, softened. He remembered her. A tiny spark of hope lit in her chest. "M's green," he said, adjusting his glasses. "Good morning." "Good morning, Your Honor," she said softly. The CPS workers from the night before sat at a table near the front. They gave her polite nods. They weren't villains, just doing their job, but their presence made her skin crawl. The judge opened the folder. "This is an emergency review prompted by an anonymous report. I've gone through the initial statements. He glanced over the rims of his glasses. Before we proceed, is there anything you'd like to say? Laura gripped the edge of the table. Yes. None of the allegations are true. I don't neglect my children. I don't leave them alone. I don't have episodes. I've never put them in danger. This report was made out of spite. The judge nodded slowly. I read the initial home visit summary. There were no signs of neglect or instability. The female CPS worker cleared her throat. We did observe a stable home. But per protocol, we have to follow through with interviews and... He held up a hand. I understand. Then he turned back to Laura. Do you know who filed the report? Laura hesitated. Yes, my sister. The room stayed silent, but one of the CPS workers scribbled something down. The judge leaned back in his seat, studying her. You're confident it was her? She's been criticizing my parenting for months, Laura said. She thinks she knows better than me. And when I confronted her last night, she didn't deny it. He made another note. Laura could feel her throat tightening again, but she forced herself to speak calmly. My sister has always used control as a way to feel important. She doesn't have kids. She doesn't understand what it takes. And she hates when things don't go her way. The judge glanced at the CPS workers. Were the children interviewed? Yes. The woman replied. Both reported feeling safe at home. There were no red flags. Any signs of emotional distress? Fear? Neglect? No, Your Honor. He closed the folder, and then he looked directly at Laura, really looked at her. Years passed between them in a single moment. She could almost see the flash of the young boy he'd been tired, lost, mistrustful of adults. She remembered sitting across from him at a metal table in the shelter's common room, saying, "You deserve stability. You deserve a chance." Now that same boy was deciding her fate. Finally, he spoke. "Ms. Green," he said gently, "your case raises concerns, but not about your parenting." Her breath caught. He continued, "False reports, when proven malicious, carry legal consequences, and based on the evidence so far, this report appears retaliatory." The CPS workers nodded slightly. Laura blinked hard, trying not to cry. "Here's what we're going to do," the judge said. "CPS will conduct one more follow-up visit. Standard procedure, not punitive. After that, bearing any concerns, the case will be closed." Laura exhaled shakily. "And," he added, "I will request the caller's identity be reviewed. If it was your sister, she may face repercussions." Laura's eyes widened. I didn't ask for that." "No," he said softly. "But some actions carry their own consequences." The room was quiet enough to hear the hum of the ceiling lights. He shifted gears, professional again. "We're done for today. You'll get a notice about the follow-up visit. In the meantime, continue as normal. You're doing fine." Laura's throat tightened again, this time from relief. "Thank you, Your Honor." As she gathered her things, he paused. "Ms. Green." She turned. He gave her a small, genuine smile. "You helped me once, just doing my job now." Laura nodded, too overwhelmed to respond. Outside the courtroom, she stepped into the hallway and let out a long, trembling breath. She didn't collapse, but she could have. Her hands shook as she leaned against the wall. Her phone buzzed. Melissa. Again, Laura stared at the name. This time she answered. "What happened?" Melissa demanded immediately. "Are they taking the kids?" "Did they?" "Stop," Laura said quietly. "Just stop." A beat of silence. Laura continued, her voice steady. The judge saw right through it. He knows the report wasn't real. They all do. Melissa scoffed. "You're lying." "No," Laura said. "But you did. And it's going to come back on you." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Exactly what you think it means." Another long silence. Then Melissa snapped. "You're ungrateful, Laura. I was trying to help. You were trying to control me. You're ridiculous." "No," Laura said calmly. "I'm done." And she hung up. For the first time since this nightmare started, she finally felt something like power settling back into her bones. But she had no idea. The real consequences for Melissa were just beginning. For the first time in days, the house felt calm again. Laura made dinner, helped Mia with her math homework, and watched Jacob build a lopsided Lego tower. The normalcy felt almost unreal, like she was waiting for another knock at the door. But the next morning, the knock that came wasn't from CPS. It was from a courier. A thick envelope, her name typed neatly on the front. A return address she recognized immediately. County Legal Department. Her stomach twisted. She opened it at the kitchen counter while the kids ate cereal. A stack of papers slid out, official heavy, full of legal language she had to read twice to understand. It was a notice. The county had opened an investigation into the caller who filed the false CPS report. They were requesting clarification, documentation, and the caller's identity from the hotline logs. It was standard protocol, but only when they suspected malice. And they did. Laura set the papers down, exhaling shakily. This wasn't revenge she planned. She wasn't even sure she wanted revenge. But this was accountability, something Melissa had never experienced in her life. 2 days later, CPS returned for the follow-up visit. The supervisor, an older woman with gray curls and a warm smile, walked through the house with complete ease. "Everything looks good here," she said after checking the bedrooms. "You've got a calm home." Laura nodded, swallowing down the nerves. "We try." "You're doing more than trying," the supervisor said. The initial report was odd, inconsistent. Laura didn't respond, but the woman continued gently. "It happens more than people think. False reports from family. People get angry, feel threatened, want control." Laura's heart squeezed. "Yeah, I know. Well," the supervisor said, closing her folder, "I'll be recommending the case be closed. You'll get the paperwork within a week." Laura didn't realize she was crying until the woman gave her a soft smile. "You're doing a good job, Mom." Those words, simple, human, broke something open inside her. "Thank you," Laura whispered. After they left, she sat at the kitchen table and let herself breathe. Really breathe. For the first time since the nightmare started. 3 weeks later, the official letter arrived, case closed. No concerns. No follow-up required. Laura held the paper like it was a newborn. Relief washed over her all over again, but underneath it was something else. A quiet, simmering anger. Not loud, not explosive, not dramatic, just real, because while the case was closed for her, it was very much open for Melissa. Melissa called a few times that week. Laura ignored every call, every text. "Every, we need to talk?" "Every, you misunderstood?" "Every, I was only trying to help." But then the county contacted Melissa directly, and everything changed. Late on a Tuesday afternoon, Laura's phone buzzed, a voicemail. From Melissa. She didn't sound angry this time. She sounded scared. Laura sat on her couch, pressed play, and listened. "Laura, please call me. Please. I didn't know they would take it this far. An investigator came to my job. They talked to HR. They're saying I filed a malicious report. I could lose my position. Can you tell them it was a mistake? Can you help me fix this? Please." Laura pressed the phone to her chest and exhaled. Her whole life, Melissa had twisted things, made herself the victim, expected Laura to clean up her messes. But now Melissa wanted her to fix a mess she created on purpose. Laura didn't call back, not out of cruelty, out of clarity. A week later, Melissa showed up at Laura's house unannounced. Laura saw her through the window, arms crossed, pacing, jaw tight. She hesitated before opening the door, but she did, for closure. For the finality she needed. Melissa stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. "I can't believe you're doing this," she snapped. "I told you I didn't mean." "Melissa," Laura said, her voice steady. "Stop?" Melissa blinked, thrown off. Laura continued, "You lied. You tried to take my kids. You tried to make me look like a bad mother. And now you're upset because there are consequences. It wasn't supposed to go this far!" Melissa shouted. "It wasn't supposed to happen at all," Laura said quietly. Melissa's face twisted. "You're really not going to help me?" Laura shook her head. "No, not this time. But I'm your sister." Laura stared at her for a long moment. "You stopped being my sister the moment you used my kids to hurt me." Melissa stepped back like she'd been slapped. "You're choosing them over me." "They're my children," Laura said. "There isn't a choice." Melissa was silent for a long, awkward minute. Then she tried one last card, the one she always played. "I need you," she whispered, voice cracking, "please." Laura swallowed hard. "I needed you too. 3 weeks ago. When I was terrified CPS was going to take my kids. When I felt humiliated and alone. And you hung up on me." Melissa didn't respond. "That's the difference," Laura said softly. You hurt me on purpose, and you expect me to rescue you by reflex. Melissa blinked rapidly, her posture small now, defeated. So that's it? Laura nodded. Yeah, that's it. Melissa left without another word, and for the first time in Laura's life, the door closed behind her with a sense of peace instead of guilt. 2 months later, the county finished their investigation. Laura didn't hear all the details. She wasn't supposed to, but she did know the outcome. Melissa received a formal citation, a fine, mandatory counseling, and a probationary mark that went straight to her employer. She kept her job, but barely. Her reputation took a hit she couldn't talk her way out of. People stared, asked questions. She hated it. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't movie-style revenge. It was real. Consequences. Accountability. The truth standing where a lie tried to tear someone's life apart. And that was enough. One crisp morning, Laura sat on her porch with a cup of coffee, watching Mia and Jacob chase each other around the yard. Mia giggled. Jacob shrieked. Normal life, peaceful life had settled back in. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Hope you and the kids are doing well. You deserve better days. E. Ramirez, the judge. Laura smiled to herself. Not in a romantic way, not like that. Just gratitude. Human connection. The quiet, steady kind that life rarely gives you at the exact moment you need it. She typed back, thank you. For everything. And then she slipped her phone into her pocket, breathed in the cold morning air, and felt her life, finally, belong fully to her again. Not Melissa. Not fear, not lies. Just her kids, and peace she earned the hard way. If this story hit home for you, make sure you subscribe. Seriously, don't leave without tapping that button. And while you're here, drop a comment, like the video, and share it with someone who needs this reminder. Real revenge isn't about hurting someone. It's about getting your life back.